NCOP. If this practice is allowed to be set aside today, it will set a precedence and will be in contravention with existing practice. I would thus like to move that the Council amends the motion and that the latter part of it is being removed. Thank you.
Honourable Labaskachne, do I understand that you wish us to amend the first motion, which motion simply says that we must consider the draft resolutions on the remuneration of constitutional court judges and magistrates, and the report of the Select Committee. That is the point of order you are calling for.
Yes, Chair, the point of order is that and the report of the Select Committee on Finance must be removed because the report has not been ATC'd. Thank you.
Honourable members, can I be allowed to take advice on this matter?
All right, well, there seems to be a bit of a problem at the National Council of Provinces. We will take you back to Parliament as soon as the Deputy President starts to address the National Council of Provinces on a number of issues there. One in particular, government's program to deal with the...
Who wishes that the last part of the first motion, that the part that says, and the report of the finance of the Select Committee on Finance, the Honourable Member says that that part should not be allowed because that report has not been ATC'd. The Honourable Labaskachne also said that alternatively she would like to amend the motion. I would like to avail you the opportunity to amend this motion because the Select Committee report should be the report that deals with the issue of the first, of the second and third motions. Honourable Labaskachne, would you like to make the amendment which you were suggesting to the motion?
Thank you, Chairperson. I would amend the motion first on the order paper as follows. Draft resolution that notwithstanding Rule 2471, which provides that the sitting of the Council will be dedicated for oral questions, the Council considers draft resolutions on the remuneration of Constitutional Court judges and magistrates. That's the amendment of motion number 1.
Honourable members, now have a motion to amend motion number 1 on the order paper. I therefore must put the amended motion to the House first. Will the House agree to the amendment of the motion 1 as proposed by the Honourable Labaskachne? Order, members, will the House agree? Okay. No, please, calm down. I am going to give provinces the opportunity. I'm going to give the opportunity to provinces to vote on the amendment as proposed by Honorable Labaskafni. I'm going to take you alphabetically. Eastern Cape,
Eastern Cape, disagree.
Free State.
Thank you, Chairperson. Free State doesn't support.
Okay. Gauteng.
Do not agree with the amendment.
KZN.
KZN disagrees.
Limpopo.
We disagree,
Order.
Chairperson.
I'm trying to track here. Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga doesn't agree.
The Northern Cape.
The Northern Cape doesn't agree, Chair.
The Northwest.
The Northwest, Haidumalan Mudulastu.
The Western Cape.
Northwest doesn't agree.
The order. The Western Cape.
Western Cape supports the motion.
You are on a point of order.
Yes, point of order. Northwest doesn't have that mandate, so it can't vote.
Order, members. You are a delegate of the Northwest, you are a delegate of the Free State. Practice and convention in this House is that leaders of provincial delegations vote on behalf of their provinces. No member, I am addressing you on your point of order. I am addressing the point of order you put. Honorable Van Lingen, you have a different point of order?
Chairperson, I actually want to say that we cannot enter into this system knowing the precedent that we're creating that is extremely dangerous and not in line with common law practice.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, in fact, you are not setting a precedence. We found the precedence in this House. It is interesting today for me that members who are in provincial delegations today question the mandates of their leaders of delegations, because the precedence you set is that you have always allowed the leaders of delegations to vote. Now, if members say to me today that in fact, before leaders of delegations or provincial delegations vote, I must start off by asking this House whether delegations have met and have reached, then that is a separate thing. That would then be for the first time that this House will consider that matter. In the absence of that, we will do and consider and conclude this in the way we have done, and then go back to us to come back to the question which is very relevant, Memokwili, which you are addressing. Whether this House must in the future entertain asking provincial delegations whether they have actually arrived at a mandate. I'm taking no further points of order. No, please don't add on. I am taking no further points of order. We have voted. I want the results. Honorable members, 7 provinces. No, you agreed with the motion. You want to change?
No, I am not changing. Chairperson, with due respect, I said Free State doesn't support. That is what I said. No, it's me who said it.
Order.
Chairperson, that is what I said. I can place it on record. That is what I said. I said Free State doesn't support. That is what I said.
Honorable members, I may have heard wrongly, but I thought that the member said he supported. Supposing we take it that Honorable Lavastakne, Honorable Mikilakas, you are on your feet. Honorable Lavastakne.
Chair, I raised on a point of order first to amend the motion. Then the amendment of the motion was put to the vote. Okay? There will be no, the way we've done it now, there will be no way to do a declaration on the vote, on the question, and that is the motion. On the point of order, what I want to raise, Honourable Chair, is the precedent is not being set on how we vote. The precedent has been set on the fact that a report that has not been ATC'd is going to be tabled in this House and will put me in a position as a delegation to vote on a report that I didn't have the time to read or get acquainted with the content. That is an unfair practice in this House. That was the reason why I amended the report. There's no reason. We've done it last year in 2015. We all got together because reports were not ATC'd. We rescheduled a meeting of this council to the next day, 9 o'clock in the morning, because reports were not ATC'd. Now we come here today, and maybe because of pressure, maybe because of a clinch, whatever the reason, and we're not even nasty, we're just following the rules. And say the report with practices has been followed in the past in this House has not been ATC'd. Therefore, we can't discuss it. There's no reason that it can't be ATC'd today and be discussed tomorrow at 9 o'clock or 2 o'clock for half an hour. But if we follow that through, it sets a precedent for in the future that we can bring to this House whatever we want to without it being ATC'd. And this is not... that will not contribute to the status of the NCOP as a council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Lavastakne, I also accorded you the opportunity to propose an amendment. You took the opportunity to propose the amendment to the motion. That amendment you proposed was put to the House to vote on. That amendment was put to the House to vote on. That vote has been carried, and now you want to open up and take the House back to the discussion as though an amendment has not been put. The amendment that Honourable Lavastakne proposed was that we put the full stop after magistrates, which would then exclude. That amendment has been put to the House and has been defeated. Whether or not we count the vote of the Free State, which I thought I heard in the same way as Honourable Julius, but the Honourable Member says, in fact, that is not what he says. If we even nullify that vote of the Free State for this particular instance, that amendment has been carried. I want to then do what I should do. I want to ask the House to then proceed to vote on the motion number 1 as it stands on the order paper. Honourable Mikilakas, you insist?
Thank you, Chairperson. On a point of order, and thank you for indulging. Chairperson, the Constitution specifically states that this Council must make decisions in a fair and transparent manner that is consistent with democracy. The report has not been ATC'd, and with the greatest of respect, Chairperson, I submit that since it wasn't ATC'd, this Council did not have the opportunity to scrutinise it before we make a decision. There's no way that this Council can objectively make an informed decision in such a manner, and that would result in it not being in a fair, open manner that's consistent with democracy. I therefore submit with the greatest of respect, Honourable Chairperson, that should we be put to a vote and Council decides to approve this document, that the decision to put it to a vote in Council would result in an unconstitutional decision. I do not want to, and I say it with the greatest of respect, I do not want to disagree necessarily with your decisions as the chairperson, but I would like to caution that should this be put to a vote and the procedure was unconstitutional, that we might face a very dangerous precedent. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Michaelakis. It would seem to me, Honourable Members, you want to have your cake and eat it. There is a draft resolution. The draft resolution is put. There is a point of order. The point of order also offers an alternative. It says, allow me to make an amendment. Any amendment to a motion or statement is first put to the vote. That amendment is put to the vote. As it is put to the vote, it means we must now consider that which is here. I know what the Constitution says. It also says that the House can make its internal arrangement. In other words, the House can take a decision to suspend or to do whatever. Honourable Tibier.
Chairperson, just on a point of clarity. The report was adopted yesterday by the Select Committee for Finance and the Standing Committee for Finance jointly. The Standing Committee for Finance report was ATC'd, as appeared on page 30 of the ATC of today. I recognized this morning, 6:45, when I went down to the stores to get the ATC paper. I immediately phoned the manager of the unit, Advocate Tau, and I engaged with Advocate Mandela, Secretary of the NCOP, what now? And I was advised this document will be tabled today, as is on the desks of honourable members, as ATC. And that is the correct procedure until now that was followed, Honourable Chairperson. The content of this document is precisely the same, word by word, comma by comma, point by point, as the Standing Committee for Finance as ATC. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable members, we have taken a vote. We have taken a vote on the matter. The matter about the ATC has been clarified. The point I can now deduce from what Honourable Labaskachny is raising is that because two committees considered the same issues, the two committees should separately have ATC'd. I beg this House to allow the business of the House to continue and allow us to proceed with this, since it is, in fact, true that the report was ATC'd, albeit not by both the committees that considered the matters. We'll find out why and how it comes that when two committees consider the same report, one is ATC'd and the other one is not ATC'd, and get back to the House. I shall now proceed to put the question to the House. Honourable Esak.
Honourable Chairperson, I apologize most profusely. Then I must ask, if that be the case and your ruling, then what is then the circumstance on the declaration then? I'm addressing the Chair.
The Honourable Labaskachny said there was no point of declarations. I can let her repeat herself because no order. Yeah. Can I allow this House to continue with its business, Honorable van Lingen? Honorable De Beer, Honorable Chief Whip, are showing us that in fact the report was 80 seat. I have said that I would look into the reason why the second committee's report, which is identical to this report, since that seems to be the issue which is holding this House up, was not also 80 seat. If the House says that we should allow for declarations in terms of this motion, I shall be happy to do so. Does the House want to make declarations before we take the vote on motion 1? Because we dealt with the amended version of motion 1.
We've got the 3 motions, and then we have got on the order of the day consideration of the report of the fiscal framework. If you seem it not fit to do a declaration now, will we be allowed to do a declaration once we get to the order of the day?
Ma'am, I did, and I'm going to be very slow. Order. I did say that members can make their declaration. It is the Honorable Labaskachne who did not see the point to continue with that. I did, and I'm going to be very slow. Order. That same question to the House. Whether the House wants to make declarations. I have not closed the door on declarations. So I do not wish to be misunderstood. If members wish to use their 3 minutes to make declarations, they are free to do so now. Does any member wish to make a declaration? We are still on the first motion. None. Okay, I'm going to take the vote on motion 1. No, honorable members, let's be very clear. There is a motion. You propose an amendment on the motion. I need to know that the main motion, which was amended, is carried by this House so that we can proceed. And that is the question I'm putting to this House now. Will leaders of delegations please vote on motion number 1? Unless you wish to make a declaration again on motion number 1 after proposing an amendment to it. Honorable Labaskachne, I really do not understand now. Please take your...
Thank you, Chair. I understand now that I am allowed to make a declaration on the motion now.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I want to put to the House that the Western Cape do not support the fact that the motion is going to be carried in the House based on the fact that in the ATC, as Honourable De Beer alluded to, is it 80 seat as the report of the Standing Committee on Finance on the 2016 Fiscal Framework and Revenue Proposals dated 8th of March. And the report that's in front of us that's not been 80 seat is a report of the Select Committee on Finance on the 2016 Fiscal Framework and Revenue. And therefore it should be 80 seat as a separate report, otherwise it should have been indicated as a joint committee and a report simultaneously 80 seat to both houses. I further want to say in this declaration that I want to allude to Honourable Mikalakis' proposal, or that what we're doing in this House at the moment is not fair, because the precedent has been set now today that whenever in the next term that any report can be dealt in this House by putting the motion on the order paper, knowing that 8 provinces will outvote 1 province. That is not a fair practice in this House, and we will take this up further. Thank you. And it's not according to the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member who wishes to make a declaration? None? I put the question, and the question is that the first motion be agreed to. Eastern Cape?
Eastern Cape support. Chair.
Free State? Free State?
Free State support. Chair.
Gauteng?
Gauteng agrees.
KZN?
KZN support.
Limpopo?
Limpopo ya dumela modulasetulo.
Mpumalanga?
Support, Chairperson, we are satisfied.
Mpumalanga yavuma.
Northern Cape?
Mpumalanga supports. Cape agrees, Chair.
Northwest?
Northwest agrees.
Strongly object.
Thank you. All 9 provinces have voted. 8 provinces are agreed. 1 province is against. We proceed. On what point are you rising on, Honorable Julius?
I humbly apologize for going back, but can a province vote yes on both? Can you support both? Obviously, it's not the same, but one province voted the same on both, Chairperson.
I note what you are saying, Honorable Member. Honorable Members, all provinces have voted, and therefore I declare that the motion has been agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Members, we proceed to the second and third motions on the order paper.
Chairperson of the Council, thank you very much.
Sihlalo ikansili yenkosi kakhulu ngale nxaxheba.
Hereby move that the
Ndiphakamisa ikansili mayisombulule
of Section 15, subsection 4,
kwesiqendana seshumi nesihlanu sesine.
B, Roman figure 1 of the Judges' Remuneration and
Inhlawulo
Conditions
yejaji
of
nemi
Employment Number
abaphangela
47
phantsi kwayo.
of 2001 as amended by Section 15
ngokuguqulwa
of
kwayo
the
kwisiqendana seshumi
Judicial
nesihlanu
Officers Act number 28 of
magosa
2003
asezikundleni
to approve in whole the
uvunye
rate
ngokupheleleyo
of salaries and
umvuzo
allowances payable
ezibonelelo
to constitutional court
ezihlawelwa
judges or
ijaji zenkundla
judges
yomgaqo seko
as
okanye ijaji
determined by the President of the Republic of
kuchazwa
South
ngumongameli
Africa
womzantsi afrika
in the draft notice and schedule of
Umphakamiso
23rd February
sika-23 February
2016,
2016
which was tabled in the
esibekwe
Council on the
eKhansile
3rd of March 2016.
those
I
3rd of
move
March
accordingly.
2016 ndiphakamisa ngolo hlobo sihlanu.
Honorable Klimbi.
Ahloniphekileyo kaXimbi.
Thank you. Can I come over there?
Enkosi ndingeza apha.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Kakhulu sihlanu.
Chairperson,
Sihlanu.
in terms of Section 21A of the Judges' Remuneration and Condition of Employment Act of 2001, constitutional court judges and judges are entitled to an annual salaries and such allowances or benefits as determined by the President from time to time by notice in terms of Gazette and approved by Parliament in terms of Section 2(4) of the Act. Chairperson, Section 2(4)A of the Act requires that a notice contemplated in Section 2(1)A of the Act
be submitted to Parliament for approval before publication. On 2nd of March 2016, the Select Committee on Security and Justice received a briefing from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development in relation to the proposed increases in salaries of the Constitutional Court judges and judges as set out in draft notice by the President that had to be approved by the Houses of Parliament. The final recommendation for the salaries increase of the Constitutional Court judges and other judges is 4.4%, with effect from 1st April 2015. The Select Committee on Security and Justice, having considered the draft notice and schedule submitted in terms of Section 2(3)(b) of the Judges' Remuneration and Conditions of Employment Act number 47 of 2001, determining the rate at which salaries are payable to Constitutional Court judges and judges annually, effect from 1st April 2015, referred to it, recommends that the Council approve the said draft notice as scheduled. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Honorable Klimbi, does your report cover both?
No, ma'am. I can go to the magistrate, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairperson. Section 12, 1A of the Magistrates Act number 90 of 1993, spells out the procedures for determining the salaries of magistrates. Magistrates are entitled to such salaries, allowance, or benefit as determined by the President from time to time by notice in terms of Gazette. After taking into consideration the recommendation of the Independent Commission for Remuneration of Public Office Bearers, established under Section 2 of the Independent Commission for the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers, Act number 92 of 1997, and approved by the President in terms of subsection 3. Section 12(3)(a) provides for such a notice as contemplated in Section 12(a), a notice issued under subsection 1(a) must be submitted to Parliament for approval before publication thereof. On 7 March 2016, the Select Committee on Security and Justice received a briefing from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development in relation to the proposed increases in the salaries of the magistrates, as set out in a draft notice by the President that had to be approved by the both houses of Parliament for this year. The final recommendation was following: A, 5.5% from the position of the special grade chief magistrate to the position of the chief magistrate. B, 6% from the position of the senior magistrate to the position of the magistrate. Therefore, the Select Committee on Security and Justice, having considered the draft notice and schedule in terms of Section 12(3) of the Magistrates Act of 1993, that is Act number 90 of 1993, Chairperson, determining the rate at which salaries are payable to magistrates annually with effect from 1st April 2015, referred to it, recommends that the Council approve the said draft notice and scheduled. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. There being no further speakers on this matter, I shall put the second motion on the order paper, and the question is that the House agrees to the second motion on the order paper. I proceed to the provincial heads of delegations, the Eastern Cape.
The Eastern Cape support, Chair.
Free State.
Thank you, Chairperson. Free State fully support.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees.
KZN.
KZN support, Chair.
Limpopo.
Limpopo supports.
Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga iyachesa, Chair.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape agrees, Chair.
Northwest.
Northwest agrees.
Western Cape.
We agree.
Thank you very much. All 9 provinces have voted, all provinces have agreed to, and therefore this is carried in terms of Rule 71. I put the third motion on the order paper for the vote and call on the leaders of delegations Eastern Cape on motion number 3.
Eastern Cape support, Chair.
Free State.
Free State, it's a chairperson.
Gauteng.
Fully agrees.
KZN. Limpopo.
KZN supports.
Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga supports.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape support.
Northwest.
Northwest support.
Western Cape.
Eastern Cape support.
Thank you. All 9 provinces have agreed. Therefore, all provinces are agreed on both motions 2 and 3 in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable members, we proceed to the first order on our order paper, and these are questions to the Deputy President. I invite the Deputy President and welcome him to our first session of questions in this year. Deputy President, the first question, which is addressed to yourself, is the question, I don't have the question paper. It's the question posed by the Honorable Mohapi to the Deputy President, question number 1.
Honorable Chairperson of the Council of Provinces, honorable members, the South African government's program to transform our society and indeed to transform the economy of our country is clearly set out in our National Development Plan. This plan, supported by the majority of our people and indeed by many parties in our parliament, addresses the challenges that we face, principally poverty, unemployment, as well as the divisions on the basis of race, class, and gender. And this plan addresses these challenges in a comprehensive manner. It acknowledges that the divisions that our country faces are perpetuated by both racist and sexist attitudes and practices, by unequal economic and social relations. Government has taken a number of concrete steps to eradicate the material basis of racism, sexism, and class division in our country by working to ensure equal access to education, equal access to health care, to housing, social grants, and a number of other basic services that are available to our people. The government has also instituted a number of measures to redress centuries of economic dispossession and exploitation. And a number of these measures include employment equity measures, land restitution and land reform, the broad-based black economic empowerment measures, preferential procurement, the development of small and medium enterprises, as well as the development of the black industrialists, which has just been approved by Cabinet. On the issue of race, government has developed a draft national action plan to combat racism, to also deal with the question of racial discrimination, xenophobia, and other related acts of intolerance that continue to be practiced in our country. All South Africans have been invited to comment on the draft plan before the 30th of June of this year. The Department of Arts and Culture has undertaken initiatives like Mzansi Golden Economy Program to address the challenges of poverty and unemployment through the arts, culture and heritage sector. It has also organized community conversations and sectoral engagements across our country to address issues of social cohesion and nation building. Through the Department of Arts and Culture, government has partnered with the Moral Regeneration Movement on a number of projects that will help to build and enrich the moral and ethical substance of our nation. All this is being done to address the challenges that we continue to face. The government, on its part, is not planning a national summit to exclusively deal with racism. Instead, government is supporting a range of initiatives that will address these societal challenges. The National Summit on Social Cohesion that is being planned for 2018 will take stock of the progress that we will have made in promoting social cohesion, including ridding our country of racism, sexism, xenophobia, and intolerance. If we are to address the divisions of our society and build a united nation, what we will have to do is to work together. Social cohesion is a national effort which will require that we must all take collective action and also take personal responsibility as citizens of this great nation. I thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mohapi.
Thank you, Programs Director. I would like my response to be based on the people who are staying in farms. Thank you, Deputy President, with your response. But now, my Deputy President, in the past weekend there was registrations for the upcoming elections. We went out with some of the volunteers where we went to the farms at Paris and Kronstadt. The people have encouraged us on the work of government, and they have pointed out the work of Premier Ismagashule in the Free State by ensuring that there's development for farms. Because when you speak about Diatalawa in Kwakwa, for an example, but other issues that they have raised was that even though they see progress, Deputy President, in their lives, there is still that backlog. In the first instance, there's poverty, lack of work, and lack of service delivery, like electricity.
A point of order. I can see honorable members deliberating, making a very long speech.
Thank you very much. That is not a point of order. Please take your seat.
Yes, taken much of your time.
Please take your seat. That's not a point of order.
But we're aware already.
Please take your seat now. Honorable members, members have 2 minutes to make whatever points, and within the 2 minutes to have given us a supplementary question. You have 41 seconds left.
Chairperson Kelly,
Thank you, Chairperson. These are indications that other residents do not take care of our people who stay in the farms. Deputy President, the question that was raised was, what are we going to do? Because people who are staying in farms are still oppressed by farmers. How are we going to retain their dignity of those who are faced with those people who are oppressing them? How are we going to deal with illegal evictions at farms? What are we going to do again? Because even at elections, they want to go to participate in elections, so they are discouraged. So the question is, what is it that we can do from your office and us that we can do to support those people and bring back their hope? Honorable Member, you have 2 minutes just to make 2 supplementary questions, and you have asked 4 supplementary questions. I would like to ask honorable members to respect all the rules.
Make your supplementary questions, but each member is allowed only 1 supplementary question. Please do not do what Honorable Mohapi has done, ask 4 supplementaries, because the Deputy President will have limited number to respond to 1 supplementary question. Honorable Deputy President, you are on the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson, and I would like to thank the honorable member for the question. What is important that we're supposed to take caution of is, yes, we know, especially that farms, there's oppression. Indeed, our people are still under oppression. So what we need to do in those instances is, when those instances happen at those farms or wherever they may be happening, people through their organizations, even our organizations, should stand up and fight for the rights of those people who are oppressed, because government can support people if their grievances are raised and exposed, so that we can know about them. Because in most cases we hear rumors around the corners that this and that is happening. So, but what we need to know is those to be exposed. So if those who have farms or farmers are victimizing farmers, we need to know their names so that we can use all the laws. We have the Constitution that can protect the nation. Let us use all these laws. Let us use governmental departments so that we can protect our people, so that we can fight for those people. Indeed, our organizations, they can be political parties, they can be civil organizations. They must stand up and help those who cannot fight for themselves. Indeed, your organization that is ruling this country, they should be working together and leading in protecting and looking at those who are victimizing those people. And if we are not going to do that, this will continue. Some do this in private, some do it at night where we cannot see, but we want to expose those who are doing this in secret. So we want to expose them so that we can know them, so that the law can deal with them. We have the laws that can enable us to deal with those people and put them to place if they are out of order. Thank you. Honorable Kaula.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy President. The original question is indeed a little bit packed, but I will concentrate on just one aspect of the question as my follow-up. The social spending of the country is estimated to be around 60% of the total budget of the country. And the social programs are said to be having an impact in poverty reduction, but the Gini coefficient of the country has kept on sliding downwards. Today it is estimated to be at around 0.69. So the gap it's not getting better, but it's getting worse. Yet social spending is consuming about 60% of the budget now. What can we say about these social protection programs in terms of their impact in the Gini coefficient of the people of South Africa? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess if the government of the Republic of South Africa had not embarked on the type of social protection programs that it has embarked on, the Gini coefficient of our country would be a lot worse than what it is. It is generally agreed to that the progress that has been made in the reduction of poverty in our country, in terms of lifting a number of our people out of poverty, has contributed to making sure that the Gini coefficient of our country does not go much higher than where it is now. Now, a number of measures have to be taken to make sure that we see a greater improvement, and it has to do with the reduction of inequality in our country. Many measures are being taken, and one of those is income inequality. There continues to be income inequality in our country, and there continues to be asset poverty in our country. Now, these are measures that we are addressing. Right now, the government is involved in a process which is government initiated, in which a number of role players, social partners are participating in, of addressing the issue of a national minimum wage. And in many countries where minimum wage has been instituted, it has led to an improvement in the Gini coefficient. And we can quote a number of countries. Brazil happens to be one of those countries where after the national minimum wage was instituted, the Gini coefficient then improved. So, and inequality started reducing. So we are looking at a number of measures. We are not standing at a standstill. We're looking at various measures to do what? To improve the quality of life of our people and to reduce inequality, and in the end to eradicate poverty in South Africa. So that is one of the many measures that are being taken. The improvement of education is going to directly lead to an improvement of the Gini coefficient. And of course, the performance of our economy, once the economy starts performing at higher levels, we should be able to see a greater improvement. A combination of all these measures will, in time, lead to the reduction of our Gini coefficient. I'm confident about that, and it is going to happen. We live in a country of great opportunity, and all we have to do is to go and grasp those opportunities and, in a committed way, without theorizing, without hallucinating, deal in a very practical way in ways of improving the lives of our people. That is what the African National Congress is committed to.
Thank you. The Honorable Bauda.
Thank you very much indeed, Honorable Chair. I greet everyone with Assalamu alaikum. Through you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Deputy President, in South Africa we have a huge problem that is facing us regarding the issue of the racial divide in this country. This racial divide is based largely on the huge socio-economic discrepancy that exists in this country. When we make attempts at present to solve these problems working within the confines of the very same socio-economic systems that were established pre-democracy, then what we do, Honorable Chair, is we continue to promote the divide that presently exists. What we are saying is that these extreme disparities require extreme solutions. And we need to look in South Africa as a matter of urgency in order to redress the socio-economic divide and to address the issue of racism, which is raising its head in a very, very concerning manner. We see at present on our campuses in this country. What we need is to look very seriously at issues that would assist us to redress the socio-economic disparities, and these include the issue of land, the issue of salaries, the issues that would help to raise the standard of people in this country. And when that happens, then we will begin to see how our people will come together and we will seriously begin nation building in this country, which is what we need as a matter of urgency. What is the government going to do to ensure that we redress these issues, taking very extreme measures in the short term? Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Honourable Deputy President.
Madam Chair, the government is hard at work to do precisely the issues that the Honourable Member has cited. We are at work to address the issue of land. Land is being addressed in a focused manner. Many of our people are hungry for land. Land remains a key challenge that we as South Africans must all face. And we are using a number of approaches, programs to address the land question. There's land restitution. A lot of money has already been paid out to take back the land that was taken from our people within the confines of our Constitution. And the constitutional parameters are being utilized to deal with the land question. There's the land reform program, and the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform is precisely busy with all that. And at the agricultural level, a number of our people who want to work the land are being given assistance. Of course, more can be done and should be done, and we are committed to do precisely that. We're also focusing on a number of other things that are going to economically empower our people. And as I said earlier, education is one of those. Education continues to occupy a fairly important place in the budgetary process of our country. Health is another area. And we are doing a lot to deal with the historical imbalances that we inherited. And remember, we did not inherit a clean sheet. We inherited a history of dispossession, a history of racial division, a history of oppression and exploitation. And what we needed to do was to deal with that. And we are essentially dealing with three things at one go. We're dealing with our past, trying to correct that past and redress that past. We're also dealing with our present. But as we deal with our present, we also have to focus our eyes on the future. Hence the National Development Plan, which will take us to 2030, so that in 2030, South Africa is a completely different country from what it is today. We have a long-term plan. We don't just have a present-day plan. We're dealing with all the challenges that span the entire landscape of South Africa. On a daily basis, we're dealing with every issue that you can even begin to deal with, to think of. And why are we doing that? So that we can deliver a better life to all our people. That is what we are doing with a lot of obsession, a lot of focus, and a lot of determination. That is what this government is all about. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Your Excellency, the Deputy President, just by way of follow-up, one would like to know, in the process of addressing these challenges, there is poverty, unemployment, divisions in terms of race, class, and gender. There is sufficient collaboration between the government departments and coordination, and one would like to know the extent to which the government is enjoying the support and cooperation of non-state actors or non-governmental organizations. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the government executes its programs, particularly in relation to implementing the National Development Plan, it continues to mobilize the broad section of South African society in various formations. It continues to seek the support of civil organizations, non-governmental organizations. Many of them do tend to coalesce around programs of the government. And to this end, we've set up a number of institutions. NEDVEC is one of those, where institutions, formations are able to meet together to discuss a number of important issues that impact on the lives of our people as a whole. We also take out time to meet with the trade union movement. We work at close range with the various trade union federations to discuss matters of great importance. Soon, the President will be meeting the various leaders of trade union federations, and in fact that will take place next week or so. Recently, the President has had extensive discussions with business leaders and their various business organizations, and the President continues to meet on an ongoing basis with the traditional leaders of our country as well, sporting bodies, you name it, the President and the government, in fact, through various departments continue to work with our people through the various imbizos, through various consultation forums. So the government knows that it cannot act alone. It cannot implement various measures and interventions that need to be embarked upon to change the lives of our people for the better. It works with civil society, it works with business, it works with trade unions, it works with traditional leaders, and a whole host of other fellow South Africans. This is a government that is committed to a consultative process of government. We believe that in order to achieve the goals of the NDP, and indeed to act in terms of the values and principles that are set out in our Constitution, we should act in concert. We happen to believe that if we are to change things in our country, we must work together. Working together has become part of our DNA as South Africans. And many South Africans desire and wish that we should all work together to redress the imbalances of the past and to make sure that our people get a better life. And this is the key hallmark of how we as South Africans need to work and how we need to approach the challenges that we have as a nation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. That was the last supplementary on question 1. We proceed to question number 2, posed by Honorable O.J. Sefako. Deputy President.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, wage inequality has its roots in the systematic dispossession, the marginalization and the exploitation of black South Africans over many decades. Various measures were put in place including legislation such as the Job Preservation Act and so on, to institute a culture and a system of wage inequality in our country. And wage inequality in our country that we continue to grapple with has its origins from our racist past. And this is precisely what we have to deal with. And the good thing is that all South Africans agree, in fact, most South Africans agree that we must move away from wage inequality and move to a dispensation where we rid our country of the determination of wages along exploitative and racist ways. Since 1994, the government has been working with its social partners to address economic inequality, unemployment, and poverty, as I said. And it is for this reason that government has invested significantly in education and skills development. It has promoted employment equity and BEE, and it has sought to take a number of actions and measures to protect the vulnerable people in our country, particularly workers in this regard. Among the mechanisms currently being pursued to address wage inequality, as I said earlier, is to establish a national minimum wage. Now, deliberations are currently underway in NEDLAC, and they are now beginning to focus on the structure and the level of the national minimum wage. All parties, social partners in NEDLAC, having accepted and agreed to the need for a national minimum wage in South Africa, that was like a milestone event that everybody now agrees and has embraced the notion that South Africa should have a national minimum wage. Alongside other measures, the national minimum wage can contribute significantly to reducing wage inequality by raising the income of the lowest paid workers. At the same time, if properly designed, this national minimum wage can stimulate economic activity by increasing demand for goods and services in our economy, and it can in fact act as a great impetus to economic growth in our country, because lowly paid workers will now have additional income which can be disposable, which they can spend on a number of goods and services. That is why the current deliberations among social partners on the level at which to set the national minimum wage are so important. While the national minimum wage needs to make a meaningful difference in the lives of the lowest paid workers, we need to ensure that economic growth and job creation are also sustained. All social partners have committed themselves to conclude these deliberations as soon as possible and without any delay. Right now, as I speak, those partners are meeting at the NEDLAC task team level, and they're deliberating on the level of the national minimum wage. I'm hopeful that we will have success and we will be able to have a national minimum wage which hopefully should be broadly acceptable to all social players and partners in our country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Honorable Sefako.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Lebogile go menagane ke lebogile motlatsa mopresidente.
In many instances,
Mo mabakeng a le
the
mantsi
wage inequalities,
go sa lekalekane ga dituelo ke ka ntlha ya go sutliwa ga badiri,
particularly the farm workers, and workers in the factory floor who happen to be casual and temporary. The Labor Act, the Labor Amendment Act of 2014 ushered hope and inspirations to the labor sectors and the South African in general, that indeed is going to allay the subjectivity to this that is making in the poor workers the walking and talking objects. The question is, what is it that South Africa is doing to ensure that such behavior is not continue, so that the workers can indeed end up also enjoying the wealth of this country? Thank you very much, Chair.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The government has, for quite a while now, been taking active measures to address the plight of working people, particularly the lowest paid workers in our country. And to this end, a number of sectors in our economy are covered by sectorally determined minimum wages. Right now, up to 46% are covered workers, that is, are covered by sectorally determined minimum wages. 32% are covered by negotiated minimum wages, and 22 are not covered at all. Now, the government is concerned about this, and it is for this reason that these sectoral minimum wages were set in place, particularly for farm workers, for domestic workers, and a number of other workers who are at the bottom of the income rung. And government will continue to seek ways to protect working people through the Labor Relations Act and through a number of other measures and regulations, because this government wants to improve the lot of working people, particularly the vulnerable workers in our economy. And it will continue to do so. And as I was saying earlier, the institution of a national minimum wage is going to take this protection to a much higher level. Because once the national minimum wage is set, no worker, except if there are going to be exemptions, which will be agreed upon by the social partners, no worker will earn below the minimum wage that will have been set. And that, in more ways than one, will have set in place one of the strongest protection measures for working people in our country. And indeed, if you look at their situation, the conditions of employment have also improved quite dramatically over the years. The issue of the easy dismissal of workers is no longer what it used to be in the past. Safety has also improved quite a lot, and there's greater protection for workers when they are working in unsafe areas. So the government has been taking active steps, apart from focusing on the incomes of workers. It has also been looking at the conditions of employment of those workers. So measures are in place, and they'll continue to be improved. But let me end up by saying, we are fortunate to have a very strong trade union movement in our country, which has been acting as the shield and the guardian of many workers. Working together with government, we've been able, with the trade unions in our country, to make great advances to give working people in our country better conditions of employment. And as I say, much more still needs to be done. When national minimum wage is in place, things will have moved forward a great deal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mokwele.
Thank you, Chairperson.
President, it is not because we enjoy repeating ourselves
In the House. Millions of South Africans out there are exploited. Some of them are paid with liquor, alcohol, some are paid with vegetables, and I think that one you know very well. And most of them are unable to put bread on the table of their families, let alone to pay fees for studies of their kids. We cannot sit here and discuss minimum wage for more than 50 years. It is time now that South Africans know when, yes, during your Freedom Charter adoption, you must go back to your history. You must go back to your history. When will South Africans, especially the working class, will know? When will the government implement the minimum wage? We just need time, date, and a day. Please, Deputy President, we cannot sit here and be told about the net leg, the social cohesion, and all those things. We need implementation now. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Madam Chair, with the greatest respect to the member, it is through social cohesion, it is through NEDLEC that we will have a national minimum wage. This government is not going to legislate a minimum wage on its own on a unilateral basis without moving along with its social partners. It is the agreement that will flow out of negotiations and deliberations and discussions with the social partners that will yield this national minimum wage that you are so eager to have. Now, as they say, it takes two to tango. In this case, it takes a number of social partners to go to a national minimum wage tango. And we will get there. There is not a single entity or party or partner in the deliberations who is stopping progress. The parties, as I speak now, Oswak, Bakopan, Baduti Hatsi, Banse Babuisan,
May you please, all that is important, they take time. If it was according to me, alone,
but we don't work like that.
That is not how.
On a unilateral basis, we work collectively, and we are going to get an agreement on the national minimum wage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Julius.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Order. There is a speaker on the floor.
Honorable Deputy President, I do not agree with you on the minimum wage first. Before I ask my question to use up my 2 minutes, I think it will increase unemployment because it only caters for the employed. You are a businessman yourself. If you have to pay more, you will hire less. That is the business. The president said himself, the economy must create jobs. So I think it is a bit reckless and not well researched to implement it on a full scale. We should really look at it and what the impact will be on that. Nevertheless, Deputy President, the projected economic growth stands at 0.8. I think the President advised that last week, down from 2% for 2015 and the 1.5% as per the medium-term budget of October. Now, BBEE can only work if jobs are created. I think you have to agree with me on that one. We can only create jobs if there's economic growth. Now, I need to know, do you agree that without economic growth, BBEE and other policies of government will work slow or not at all? Because we need to be fair to South Africans and honest and tell them that there's a projected economic growth that doesn't look good. And we stand here and we say we will create 6 million jobs.
Honorable Julius.
In effect, do you agree with that? Thank you.
Your time. Asante. Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me say there is ample research that proves that depending on the level where you set your minimum wage, once it has been set, it can actually lead to the improvement of the income of a number of people. For a while, it is possible that there could be job shedding. But if you have set the minimum wage at a level where it can put more money into the pockets of the lowest earning workers, what that does is that they use that extra money to buy more goods and services. That then can lead to more demand and more people then get employed. And when that happens, it then begins to fuel another spate of growth in your economy. Now that has been done and tested in other economies. So we're not sucking eggs, we're not sucking hot air. It is something that has been tested elsewhere. Now, and let me assure you, in traversing this route of moving towards the minimum wage, all the social partners are walking this road together and agree that we should have a national minimum wage. The issue is going to be the level. We are enjoying a high level of expert advice from the International Labour Organization, from countries such as Brazil, Germany, the United Kingdom, Malaysia, you name them. We are traversing this road with our trade unions, our social partners, business and government, and we are united in saying if we craft it at a level where we can promote job creation as well as, to a large extent, try and ameliorate massive job losses, we could see greater demand of goods and services in our economy. Coming back to the issue of growth and broad-based black economic empowerment, the two are not mutually exclusive. It is not a chicken and egg situation, what should come first. If we are serious about correcting the imbalances of the past, we have to embrace black economic empowerment. Because if we don't, we will not have the growth that we dream about. And in fact, we could have a regression. Because those who are not empowered then do not become part and parcel of the economic growth that the country should have. So what needs to be done is that we've got to embrace both and say, we are going to take this challenge with the scruff of its neck. We are moving forward, we are going to move forward with black economic empowerment, and we are also going to generate growth. And if we take determined good measures and interventions, it is through that that our economy will begin to grow. One of the reasons why we have not seen so much growth is because many of our people remain excluded from being owners of our economy, active participants in our economy. They're just bystanders or just laborers. Unleash the levers of our economy and we will see growth. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mutara.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, notwithstanding that the sector determination process has not been concluded, there are wage inequalities as a result of sectors who are not adhering to current laws. What remains a pressing issue is the enforcement of the current labor laws and wage laws. Government, particularly the Department of Labor, has employed labor inspectors to monitor the implementation and adherence to these laws. But in most instances, it's not taking place, especially in farms and those sectors of our society or sectors of society that are seen to be non-formal. What would your response be, especially considering that the state has an increased wage bill and these officials have got a responsibility to do what they are employed to do? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the challenges that we are looking at as the parties and the social partners are negotiating the minimum wage is enforcement. How, for instance, is the national minimum wage going to be enforced? And we will obviously want to come up with solutions, bearing in mind the experience that we currently have. You're absolutely right, Honorable Member, that our experience currently is not the greatest because many employers, many companies are not adhering to the sectoral determinations of wages that have been put in place now. And of course, there is a lot that we still need to improve in the state apparatus or state machinery. One of the things we have to improve is having people who are going to enforce the laws, the regulations of our country. In my book, it does not necessarily mean that you've got to employ millions of people. You've just got to employ a sufficient number of people who are going to be focused. And in many ways, it could just mean redeployment of people who are currently in the state sector who are going to be more focused. And it's going to possibly be an issue of not only redeployment, but their management and their own focus. And if we can do that, we will be able to get a number of more companies to adhere. And it is when there is greater adherence, particularly to the national minimum wage, that we will begin to see the benefits that we're talking about. And the benefits of people earning higher wages and then having more disposable income to a point where they begin to become consumers and the demand grows up and more employment is created and the companies become more profitable, they pay more taxes, and then we are able then to have even more people who can act as focused and active inspectors to make sure that there is full adherence. And it is in the state sector that we've got to manage things. And let me say that it's not like the wheels are coming off and things are terrible and worse. We are improving on an ongoing basis. We see improvement. As we look closely at the management of processes in government, we see a consistent improvement. And that is what we should rely on. We are going to get better even to manage adherence and compliance to the national minimum wage. And that is why many of us are so looking forward to the institution of a national minimum wage, because there will be better enforcement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We proceed to the third question in the name of the Honorable Smith, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The Intergovernmental Technical Working Group was reconstituted in 2015 to develop a comprehensive national food and nutrition security plan for South Africa. The Technical Working Group has utilized diverse mechanisms to consult with key stakeholders, and it has received quite a number of submissions. The inputs received from a range of stakeholders have been incorporated into a draft plan. Further consultations will be conducted with provincial government as well as key stakeholders prior to the finalization of the plan. This work is critical, particularly in the light of the current drought in our country that is having a severe impact on food availability. The development of this draft plan underscores our government's commitment to ensure food security, particularly for the most vulnerable, and has achieved good cooperation all around because submissions have been made, and we are hoping that there will be further discussions and inputs as we move forward to have this plan implemented. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Deputy President. Consultative workshop were held on the draft policy implementation plan, and such a workshop for academia and civil society were held on 16 and 17 March 2015. But only 5 organizations were invited to this public input session. In October 2015, the same 5 organizations were invited to the workshop, and yet again other interest group and organizations such as the SAHRC, Oxfam and Section 27 were excluded. Furthermore, the process for written submission for the public were only open for 3 days. Deputy President, given the ensuing drought and food insecurity crisis that our country currently faces, how committed is this working group to receiving inputs and solutions from all South Africans? And where and when will South Africans be able to send their submissions to?
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My information is that the workshop that was held in September of 2015 was attended by 96 stakeholders. Now, that differs from what you are telling me, and I think both you and I can go and check and find out exactly what happened, but that is my information. With regard to the government's commitment, the government commitment is total. We held this workshop with a view to getting inputs and suggestions from the people of our country as organized through their various formations, NGOs, and so forth. So the fact that we held this workshop and invited a number of participants means that we are serious, and going beyond this, we will be determined to implement the plan and the policy that will flow out of this. Because as it is now, work is being done to finalize all this, and we are not going to sit on our laurels and not implement what was properly discussed in that type of forum. But apart from this, there's much more that we are doing, particularly when it comes to addressing the question of drought. We've addressed this issue in the budget, and there are a number of steps that are being taken to make sure that we address the question of drought. And the Department of Social Development, Disaster Response, through its various feeding programs, will also be used in a number of areas to alleviate the challenges and problems that will be faced by our people more generally. And I'm pleased to say, through the school nutrition program, we continue to make sure that the 9 million young people in our country do get a meal at school every day. And this is one government, and I know of no other, that distributes and feeds 9 million young people every day for 5 days of the week. No other government does that. And that should be seen as a determination on the part of government. And equally, to have held a workshop like this, a consultative workshop, means that we want to involve as many participants as possible to come forward with views and ideas so that we can work together to ensure that our people get a better life. We are obsessed just about that, to give South Africans a better life. And this is one of the ways that we are determined to do it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Mtileni.
Thank you so much. Afternoon, Deputy President.
Afternoon, Deputy President.
My question here.
I
raised my hand at first and I was not actually acknowledged.
Honorable
The question
Mtileni.
that I have now.
Order. You are not the person who sponsored the question. That person gets the first supplementary.
Okay, thank you so
Please
much.
go and read your rules.
Mr. Deputy President, for far too long, our government has been confusing food security with food sovereignty. For food security is the ability of the country to feed its citizens, while food sovereignty is the freedom of people who have to produce the food they like and at any given time, the way they like it. So my question to you is the freedom of people to have to produce the food they like, where and when. And only 2 companies have control on seed, which is crucial for food production. And these companies are white-owned, and only a tiny minority of white farmers produce food for the country. And what risks does the monopolization of agriculture pose for our future prospects of food security or food sovereignty?
Thank you. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Our government is committed to ensuring that South Africa does not only have food security, but also has food sovereignty. Food security is being ensured in a number of ways, and one of the ways, as I was saying, is to make sure that people do get food availability and access to food, and their income levels must be good enough so that they can be able to buy food. Now, when it comes to food sovereignty, the government has embarked on a number of programs. The Department of Agriculture, the Department of Land Reform as well, has embarked on a number of programs. And as we speak now, we are implementing the Agri-Parks program, where we are getting a number of our people to reconnect, to get reconnected with farming, proper productive farming that goes just beyond subsistence. And through these agri-parks, we're getting a number of small and medium farmers, farm holders, to participate in these agri-farms. As it is now, we aim to bring 120,000 hectares into production, involving some 145,000 small and medium farmers. This we are determined to do because we want them to get into the production level of producing food for our country. And of course, we are also focusing on the whole agri-processing sector. And that is precisely where we are also bringing in more and more black people. It is a joy for us, Honorable Member, to hear and see black farmers producing poultry, for instance. Millions and millions of chickens being produced by black farmers. As we go around the country, the government goes to empower those types of farmers, but at the same time, we're also training through various colleges a number of young people in agriculture so that they can become extension officers and go and support those emerging farmers, small, medium, and large, with knowledge, and the government is also helping a great deal with seed, and our cattle distribution program is also working very well in a number of provinces. So a lot is being done to revamp our agricultural base so that we have food sovereignty. A lot is being done to make sure that there is food security in our country. This we are doing because we know we face the challenge, precisely the challenge that we've spoken about. Now we are coming up with practical solutions. If you, Honourable Member, have better ideas, good ideas on how this can be done, we invite you to come forward. Put ideas on the table, let's work together and get the job done.
The Honourable Engelbrecht.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Honourable Deputy President, we appreciate that your government has acknowledged the drought, with 7 provinces that have been declared drought disaster areas. But in spite of that, a mere 1 billion has been allocated from the national budget for alleviation measures, of which 187 million has already been used for animal feed, and more than 600,000 animals have died at this point. This makes it clear that the ANC does not understand the extent of this drought crisis. Based on the mandates and conclusions of the working group, have you, Honourable Deputy President, been in consultation with the Minister of Kokta to ensure that the drought is immediately declared a national disaster in terms of sections 23 and sections 27 of the Disaster Management Act? Thank you.
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We continue in the executive to hold discussions on the drought that the country is facing, and various ministers, not only the Minister of Kokta, but the Minister of Kokta, the Minister of Agriculture and Forestry and Fisheries, the Minister of Land Reform and Distribution, all our ministers through the cluster that is in government are keeping their eye on the challenges that our country faces in relation to drought. And a number of meetings continue to take place with a number of farming organizations, a number of farmers who come and we discuss this, and the programs that the government and interventions that the government has announced are being discussed at close range. Yes, the government has voted 1.1 billion rand, which is going to go towards increasing more water availability. About half of that is going to go to borehole drilling, because our country, as we all know, is water scarce, and that is going to be deployed for making water available. And 300 million or so is going to be deployed towards cattle movement, the movement of cattle from one area to another, and about 187 million is going to be utilized for cattle feed or animal feed. Now, in addition to all that, there are a number of other government institutions. The Land Bank, for instance, has just announced that they've got a pocket of money through the IDC, which is going to be made available to finance farmers, particularly in the time of drought. Now, farmers are actually saying what they now need are loans so that they can start planting for the following year. They are saying, give us the ability to have loans, either guarantee them or give some measure of soft loans so that we can have enough capital to plant. Now, these are active measures that are being taken on an ongoing basis to address the question of drought. Now, you may well have better ideas, and if you do, put them on the table, come forward. And I say again, come forward, put your ideas on the table. Now, these are the ideas that we have put on the table. And these are the ideas that are being embraced by people who are in the business. So let's work together to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Dr. Mateme. Order.
Chairperson of the Council, thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, I would like to know about the programs like Siyazondla
in the Eastern
Cape province,
Siyavuna in KwaZulu-Natal, asibuyele emasimini in Mpumalanga, Fetjatlala in Limpopo, and many other household food production programs countrywide.
I would like to know how these programs, if these programs are part of our national
security and food sovereignty. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'd also like to thank Honorable Member of this House. Yes, I can answer by saying all these programs, Siyazondlas, and many others are the ones that this government makes it possible for us to work with our people. These programs, all of them, like the Fetsatlala one, have been allocated money, 2.8 billion rands, to work together with our people in order to eradicate poverty. These programs like these social relief programs, they also work together. Therefore, the government has got many programs that look at the drought that we face. The government does this so that the problem that our people are facing must be better. It does this so that our people
who are struggling and suffering under the current drought conditions have a measure of alleviation from the drought that we have. And we should be grateful, as South Africans, as I am, that we have a responsive government. A government which, when realizing that there are challenges that its citizens face, it is able to respond. And on the issue of drought and food security, this government is responding on an active basis, on a daily basis, going forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
This takes care of question number 3. We move on to question number 4, posed by the Honorable Prince. Deputy President.
The Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, the Department of Health has not commenced with self-testing for HIV. However, self-test kits have recently been approved by the South African Pharmacy Council, and are now available over the counter in a number of retail pharmacies. It is critical to highlight that these kits are to be used only for screening, and those who screen positive must go to a health facility to have the confirmatory test done. A diagnosis of HIV can only be done once the second test analyzed by the relevant laboratory is also done. The Pharmacy Council is currently finalizing a standard operating procedure to ensure that pharmacies provide appropriate information for the use of these kits. We encourage members of the public to use the services of health, particularly its call center, where they can have the questions answered about the use of these kits or interpretation of the results that they may get. Government itself continues to provide counseling services at all public HIV testing sites. We urge all South Africans who are sexually active to test for HIV regularly. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Prince.
Chairperson.
Please speak into the mic.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, is there a government mechanism in place to ensure there is compliance with the government practice of pre and post counseling as well as proper disease management education to those who choose to purchase self-test kits? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Honourable Member. This is precisely what I was addressing, that the Pharmacy Council of South Africa is currently finalizing standard operating procedures, and as it does so, the Department of Health, the government that is, will be examining this very closely so that we can work together and have an operating procedure that will have efficacy. As for the government itself, it obviously, through its various centers around the country, has a system that is in place for counseling and testing. Now, this is a new phenomenon which we need to deal with, and the Department of Health is going to be working at close range with the Pharmacy Council to come up with all these procedures so that when people buy these self-tests, they are able to interface with them in a way that will also lead to proper usage with a measure of counseling availability as well as proper testing if they have tested positive. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mokhosi.
Thank you, Chairperson. My question to you is,
what are you doing as the government to dispel wrong notions and perceptions around HIV and AIDS, such as the dangerous view that sleeping with visions cures HIV, or that one made popular by Mr. Zuma, that after having sex with a HIV positive person, you take a shower. Have you, as government, scolded Mr. Zuma for those dangerous comments that have the capacity to mislead the nation?
Thank you, Chairperson.
You are on your feet.
Honorable Chair, the Honorable Mokhosi should address the President of the Republic of South Africa properly as His Excellency, not just the Minister. Thank you.
Noted, Honorable Mokhosi. Honorable Mr. Zuma is the President of the Republic. Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Chair, thank you. The issue of HIV is being driven in our country, indeed by the Department of Health, but actively implemented by the South African National AIDS Council, SANAC, a body that is made up of various sectors in our country, sectors in terms of various organizations that span the length and the breadth of our country. And SANAC has come out with very clear positions in its national strategic plan on our approach as a nation on the challenge that we face of HIV. And SANAC has achieved great success. Great success since 2009, when we turned the whole issue of AIDS around and began to distribute antiretrovirals, but also saved many lives. But in the course of doing all that, the message has been very clear. The message has been very clear in terms of what causes AIDS. It's also been very clear in terms of prevention, in terms of spreading the message to sexually active people in our country, and particularly young people as well. So that has never been in question, and we have made sure as SANAC that we remain on point, on message, and we continue to do precisely that. And we continue to ramp up our activities as we continue to face new challenges on the HIV front. And we are also addressing a big issue of tuberculosis now. It's one of the challenges that we are facing. And in a few days, we'll also be launching a program to address the challenge that sex workers face, and we're launching a very, very good program that is going to address all those challenges. So on an ongoing basis, there is a lot that we are doing of a positive nature. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Kaula.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Kaula, are you on a point of order, ma'am? What is the point of order?
Maybe the Deputy President did not understand my question. Because my question was, have you as a government scolded Mr. Zuma for those dangerous comments? No, that was my question.
It's okay, order. Honorable Mukhosi. Honorable Mukhosi, that is not a point of order. Honorable Kaula, you are on the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Kaula, you are on the floor.
Honorable Deputy President, the response partly is the Honorable Deputy President is saying that the proper operating procedures are still going to be put in place. Now, that sounds very dangerous. My question then is, how has it happened that there was authorization for the self-test kit before the proper operating procedures are put in place? Wasn't that putting the cart before the horse? Because this can have very dangerous consequences from what I'm hearing the Honorable Deputy President saying. Were you not maybe in a rush to do what was supposed to be second first and first to second?
Deputy President.
Madam Chair, as I was saying, these operating procedures are being finalized. They're being finalized and they will soon be in place. And the South African Pharmacy Council, having approved the utilization and distribution of these kits, has had to come up with proper operating procedures, and that is now in final stages, and I'm sure they are going to be distributed soon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, we move on to question number 5. It is the question which was posed by the Honorable Mpambo Shibukwana, Deputy President.
Madam Chair, honorable members, the main challenge facing our country clearly is the achievement of faster economic growth, greater job creation, and the reduction of poverty and inequality. Now, our state-owned enterprises can play and do play a critical role as catalysts and drivers of investment and growth, as well as employment in the South African economy. And a number of them have been playing that role over years. Many are well placed to perform this role. However, some of these state-owned companies are facing operational and financial challenges, or they lack proper governance and management. Others are struggling to remain profitable in very trying and difficult trading circumstances. Working together with various ministries and stakeholders, the Interministerial Committee that I chair is currently seized with the task of strengthening the economic, social, and developmental role of these state-owned enterprises. The IMC is overseeing the implementation of the Presidential Review Committee, and it is doing so in a phased manner, particularly focusing on the immediate term, on the stabilization and the consolidation of a number of these state-owned companies. As President Jacob Zuma indicated in his State of the Nation address, this process involves a number of things that have to be done: streamlining some of these state-owned enterprises, sharpening their mandates, rationalizing them where there is an overlap of mandates, and phasing out those that are no longer relevant to our developmental agenda. The IMC is attending to this as a matter of priority, but understanding that it demands transparency, broad consultation, and extensive research, we are confident that we will achieve our objective of a strong, capable, efficient public sector that plays a key and leading role in a number of cases in the growing of our economy and the development of our people. This is work in progress, and many of these state-owned enterprises operate in rather difficult sectors of our economy, and sometimes they operate in sectors of our economy that are given to cyclicality, where if the cycle turns, their own fortunes also turn. Sometimes it turns negative, sometimes it turns positive, and a number of them are now in the grip of the very challenging economic circumstances that we're living under. We are confident that once they are repositioned and once they prioritize their own operations and once they straighten out their governance procedures and once in a number of cases we have good management in place, we will be able to reposition many of these state-owned enterprises. A number of them continue to be treasure troves of our economy. A number of them are like the silver that we should continue holding as a nation, but we have decided that where some of them are no longer relevant to our national mandate, they should be phased out. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Honorable Shibukwan.
Thank you very much, Metandi Modise. Honorable Deputy President, I would like you to tell us what are the details of the ongoing performance review of the state-owned enterprises in terms of identifying politically connected and businesses groups that are out of capture on government institution for their own personal gain. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
The process of looking at the Presidential Review Committee's work and recommendations is going to involve looking at the strategies that these SOEs have been pursuing, going to look at improving their performance, look at their governance and their business plans, and all this is going to be done in a very transparent and open manner, and where governance structures and processes are weak, where they can be abused, we will address those and straighten them out so that they operate just in terms of good corporate governance, processes and procedures, and on an ethical basis. This we will do because we want to avoid a situation where when they do business with whoever, they do business on a completely independent and arm's length basis. Everyone should know that doing business with state-owned enterprises will be a transparent process. It will be a process that is driven by good corporate governance procedures, by ethical behavior, and the rules that are set out in the charters of those companies will have to be adhered to and followed. And we will want to have boards that are independent, boards that are going to be focused on living and executing the mandates of those state-owned enterprises. That is what this review process is going to be focusing on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Honorable Mokosi.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Is it not surprising that there are state-owned entities that are not viable today? It is mainly due to lack of clear industrial policy coordinating the role of the state-owned entities, blinded by neoliberal policies instead of taking control of strategic sectors. There is undisputed historical evidence to show that's how nations industry. My question to you now, what is the coordinating strategy for state-owned entities to ensure that they contribute towards same objective? And exactly what does government want to achieve with the state-owned entities? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable members,
you really impressed me.
Questions that you put him forward.
Madam Chair, what do we want to achieve with our state-owned enterprises? We want to have state-owned enterprises that will execute our developmental mandate. State-owned enterprises that are going to grow and contribute to the growth of our economy, contribute to the issue of job creation, and be state-owned enterprises that are going to operate with good governance, procedures, and processes. That is what we want to achieve. They must contribute to the wealth of our country and the growth of our economy. These state-owned enterprises are owned by the people of South Africa, and we must inject growth, we must inject proper processes and procedures into them so that all of us can benefit from the work that they do. Now, that is what is important. Now, in doing so, and doing so clearly, we have to embark on a number of measures. We've got to embark on a number of measures, and that is what the IMC is busy with. The IMC is at work. It is looking at a number of issues. The operating environment. We want to be able to create good and conducive commercial environments in terms of which they should operate. We want to improve the performance of these state-owned enterprises so that they can be profitable and contribute to employment and the growth of our country. That is what we are focusing on. And will we be able to achieve this? I am confident that we will be able to achieve this. It's all very well to say that you're adhering to neoliberal policies and so forth. In our view, what matters, what really matters is whether these state-owned enterprises can fulfill the developmental mandate that we have. I can give you a good example like ESCOM. What has ESCOM done in the life of our country? Prior to 1994, the distribution and reticulation of electricity was only for a few white people in our country. Today, ESCOM, a state-owned enterprise, has reticulated and distributed electricity even to the rural areas where we never thought that electricity would go. Now, that is what we want. We look at our water boards. Our water boards are state-owned enterprises as well. What are they doing? They are rolling out water to far-flung villages. The people in the villages used to see these huge pipes. They used to see these water pipes going past their villages. But what is happening now is that the water is reaching them. What matters is not whether the cat is black or white. We want a cat that is going to catch mice. We want our state-owned enterprises to work for our people, and believe it or not, we are making progress and we are changing lives. The lives of our people are getting better on an ongoing basis. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. The Honourable Terra Blanche. Honourable Terra Blanche.
Honourable Chairperson, thank you. Honourable Deputy President, thank you very much for being brave enough to acknowledge that some of the state-owned enterprises are no longer relevant. Thank you for that. I was just wondering, Honourable Deputy President, whether you made mention about the processes going to be followed, stuff like that. Can you maybe just inform us on the criteria that you're going to use to determine or identify the candidates that is going to be sold, first of all? Obviously then, being a businessman, and myself, I'm also a businessman, can you maybe indicate the time frames that we're looking at and what amount you are expecting to generate for the fiscus? That is my question, Deputy President. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of crafting the criteria, in terms of determining which state-owned enterprises would fall into no longer relevant category, the IMC is busy with that. We're precisely discussing that issue, and we have, to a large extent, already made quite a number of advances, and we've looked at which state-owned enterprises operate in certain key sectors of our economy, which operate in the weaker sectors of our economy. We've also looked at their profitability, their commercial efficacy, and what contribution they make to our developmental agenda. So we're looking at all that, and we should finalize that criteria in time to come. What is our time frame? Obviously, we want to have this done as quickly as possible, but these things, in terms of discussions, particularly because we're dealing with a cross-sectional number of departments, they do tend to take time. We are working in a determined way with maximum speed because this is an issue that needs to be addressed. How much are we going to expect to get? That is a process that the IMC is going to be looked at. We still need to decide what do we do with those that are no longer relevant to our developmental agenda. The important thing is, as the President said at the State of the Nation address, those that are no longer relevant to our developmental agenda will be phased out. That is an important statement that we should focus our attention on, because in the end, it is of no use to continue flogging a horse that is no longer running. So we are going to be looking at matters like that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honorable Khayla.
Thank you, Deputy Chair.
There's another one now.
Can you protect me?
You may proceed, Honorable.
Protect me.
You are protected.
Deputy President, in reviewing these state enterprises, streamlining them and so, would you consider those state enterprises that are in provinces? Because also there is a lot of duplication, and even those that are at local government level. Will the government consider those? And if not, why not? Because the country is also losing a lot of money there through duplication. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
The answer is yes.
Thank you very much for that. That was the last follow-up question. That takes care then of question number 5. We then proceed to question number 6. Deputy President.
Chairperson, the government, through the Director General in the Presidency and the Minister, have been looking very closely at what needs to be done with regard to the actions that needs to be taken, as I was asked, flowing out of the Marikana unfortunate deaths of a number of people. What I can say is that the findings and the recommendations of the Commission are quite clear on this matter. And as members know, I have, in my personal capacity, a summons has been issued against me arising out of these events, and that is a process that is now in litigation, as they say, and as a consequence, and on the basis also of legal advice, it is quite inappropriate for me to get involved in any way at a personal level as well as at the government level in any of the recommendations of the Marikana Commission or any related processes. And I guess information on this matter can be obtained from the relevant ministers who are assigned by the President to deal with this matter. And as for me, it is inappropriate, quite honestly, for me to be dealing with this matter. And that is the stance I have taken even at government level. I am not involved. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Honourable Matheus.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Chair, the Deputy President in his, and I know now he's claiming he doesn't want to make comments and get involved because he's under litigation in a civil matter, but I'm going to make my point anyway, and I'm sure...
Can you just speak to the mic, Honourable Member?
Oh, I like having to talk again. I understand that the Deputy President is saying that he can't make comments on this matter because it's under litigation, but it is in a civil court. But I'm going to go through the comments and some questions that I think he could answer as the result of being in government.
Honourable Member, can you just take your seats? Can you just take your seats, Honourable Members? Honourable Makweli, can you just please be in order? I've ordered the members and requested them to take their seats. Can you just take your seats, Honourable Member? Let me just hear, and then I'll allow you to raise your point of order.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chair. That's a very fair call. So, Deputy President, in his testimony at the Farlam Commission, stated that he called for pointed action because people were dying and something had to be done. And within a day or so, he called for pointed action. There were morgue vans deployed to the Marikana Kopi. And what followed was the brutal slaughtering of striking mine workers. And these mine workers were slaughtered worse than animals. And Deputy Chair, it took the ANC government 4 days to deal pointedly with these striking mine workers.
Honourable Member, may I just remind members that in terms of the rules of this House, that is always guide. Can you take your seats, Honourable Members? The rules that guides this House. If a matter is under or in front of a court or it is recorded as an issue that is on litigation, I take it that we all know as a House we can't be dealing with that matter. Or should I refer to the specific rule in terms of the rule book? Now, if it is a matter, the Deputy President has indicated, because he has not, the Deputy President didn't respond to the question, precisely because of the processes and precisely because of where the matter is.
It's a civil matter.
Honourable members, honourable members, honourable members, honourable members, honourable members, can you take your seats?
There's going to be a problem when you came.
Honourable members, can you take your seats?
There's going to be a problem.
Honourable members.
I'm not talking about the injured mine workers that are being sued. I am talking about those that were already massacred and government action. Don't confuse the two. Look, we cannot be being...
No. Honourable members.
4 years. 4 years. We had people who were slaughtered and no one has accounted for them.
Can you take your seat, Honourable Makweli?
And there going to be a problem when you come here. I'm not Matheus.
Can you take your seat? Honourable Mtieni, can you take your seat? Honourable Mtieni, can you take your seat? Honourable members, honourable members, honourable members. I don't know what is it that you are arguing for. Because the rules of this House are quite clear on
matters. Put this question last on this row because you knew what you were going to do. This House and your MPs always want to protect the executive. From President Zuma to the Deputy President, this is what this House has come down to.
Okay. Oh, you want to sing now in the House? You want to sing in the House? You want to sing in the House? Okay. Honorable members, may I rule you out of order on this question and therefore declare that this question shall not be responded to in this House. And on the basis of that, honorable members, that brings us to the conclusion of the questions to the Deputy President.